Welcome to Three Wise Guys, HVAC Concepts. My name is Jose.
I'm Miguel.
And I'm Chris.
And today's concept is charging procedures.
Today's topic, charging procedures. First of all, when you start any charging procedure, you have to make sure that there's absolutely nothing in the system. You want to make sure you clear the whole system of any atmosphere, any moisture in it, any non-condensables. So in order to do that, we hook up a vacuum pump. And the ideal vacuum to pull would be about 500 microns, but we don't have a micron gauge in this scenario. So there's actually another method we're going to be doing here, is you take your thumb, and this here is what's called an exhaust port on the vacuum pump. The moisture that comes out, that it's vacuuming from the system, actually comes out of this in a vapor form. So what we're going to do, just to make sure that there's nothing in the system, is we put our thumb very lightly, just so you can just try to feel like the slightest pressure. Because once it's not pushing anything out, then we know that there's nothing left in the system to be pulled out. So it looks like we're about set there. Everything's good, and if you want to look at the gauges here, we actually have it down. It goes down to negative 30 inches of mercury. Alright, so I'd say that's about good. We're going to start. Alright, so now that we got this ready, we're going to go ahead and close these now that the vacuum's been pulled, so that way it seals the vacuum in. Alright, now that those are closed, I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. And now she's ready to be charged.
Now, because we pulled the refrigerant from the system, we're going to use this recovery tank to charge the system initially. But if we don't have enough refrigerant, we're going to come over to this virgin refrigerant tank. Now, the difference between the two tanks is this one has a dip tube, so the liquid refrigerant is at the bottom. And because it's just 410, you want to charge liquid. So if you were using a virgin tank, you would have to flip it over because it doesn't have that dip tube. So you have to have this valve at the bottom.
Alright, first off, always put on your safety glasses before you start anything. We're going to go ahead and open up this charging cylinder and start flooding the condenser through the high side and the low side while it's off. We're going to do that until we reach about 125 psi. And it'll just take a little while to get there. Alright, so we got it to, looks like about 105 psi right now, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be starting up the unit and continuing on from there.
Alright, always want to make sure that we have our safety glasses on. Safety is the most important thing. So it looks like right here we got our system. It's about a little over 100 psi right now. We're trying to charge it in here. We were trying to get about an ideally about 125, 150 initial charge, but it started leveling out because of the temperatures. Once the temperatures of both of these, the pressure is about equalized, then it's not going to push it in anymore because of the
ambient.
Because of the pressures, yeah. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we have it connected to the liquid side still, but we're going to be throttling it in through the low side of the compressor. I know you're not normally supposed to throttle any liquid through the suction side of the compressor because compressors normally can't handle any liquid flood back. But in this case, we're going to be throttling it so slightly that we're allowing it to flash into a vapor before it actually goes into the compressor. Alright, so I'm going to start off by, you want to go ahead
having Jose plug it in here. Cameraman talk here.
Alright, I had to do some ingenious troubleshooting right there. We got that solved. Pretty good unit. Alright, so it's on now. So now what we're going to be doing, make sure this is open. We're going to slowly open. There's a low side. There's a low ambient control on that actually made it just shut off. So we're going to be throttling it.
Correction, low pressure control.
low pressure control. So now what we're doing is we just open it just so it rises, and then we close it. So that way it allows the liquid refrigerant you just put in there to level out, or to vaporize. And sometimes it may take a while because what's happened is I believe the system when we recovered it had a low charge. So when we recovered it all back into this pump, it wasn't enough. And so now that we've got the initial charge in there, we actually might need to switch over to the virgin charging cylinder over there to finish out this charge here. All right, and we're back here. We got our charging cylinder hooked up because the recovery cylinder I think was just about empty there. So what we have, if you notice, we actually have it upside down. The reason for this being is because the recovery cylinder has that dip tube that I think Jose was talking about. This here charging cylinder does not have a dip tube, and since we need the liquid to go in, we're charging in liquid because liquid is a faster form of charging. Well, all the liquid in this usually sits at the bottom of a tank, so when we have it upside down like this, it makes all the liquid right there near the valve that's going to be actually charging it. So now we're going to go ahead and, like I said, throttle it through the low side. And you just want to see it rise like that, and then let it fall back down. You want to let it equalize. All right, it looks like we're just about up to the correct head pressure there. So now I believe we're going to hand it off here to Jose, and he's going to instruct you on what's going on next.
All right, now that we've dialed in the head pressure on the system, we're going to finish off making sure that we have the right charge using subcooling because this is a TXV system, so we can't go off a super heat. All right, now let's finish up. Alright, now to check the subcooling of the system, we're going to use the high side gauge, and we're going to get our temperature of the liquid line right here, and we're going to get the pressure on the gauge. We're going to convert it to temperature using our PT charts to get the physical temperature of this line, and then the difference will be our subcooling.
Alright, so it looks like we initially got a little bit too much of a charge, so what we're going to do here is make sure we have our safety glasses on first, and then we're going to passively recover some of the refrigerant just with the pressures inside the system. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put it in here. And then we're going to open up the high side here because this is after the compressor, so that way it's allowing the refrigerant to be pushed into the recovery tank.
So Chris, what's the subcooling we're trying to achieve?
Trying to get about 10 to 15 degrees of subcooling in this system here.
Alright. Looks like we're getting closer.
Yes, it does. We're going to go ahead and let it sit for a couple minutes now that I removed some of the refrigerant, and we're going to kind of let it settle down there so that we can get into a steady state, let everything kind of level off.
Now that we've reached the acceptable subcooling, we're about done here. How do you think we did, Chris?
Well, I think that we did awesome here. We went ahead and got this charge in there nice and safely, and it looks like the system is running correctly.
Wear your safety glasses.